Kamen Rider Zi.
Hey YouTube, Kamen Rider here with my review of Kamen Rider Zi-O Episodes 11 and 12. My prop for this week of having stuff from the show I'm talking about is my Christmas tree. Tied my jeans. Okay, so as I mentioned in my almost a Zi-O review. This is my Zi-O review. Lupin Pato review. I decided to double up because I had other videos I needed to get out last week. And I decided to sort of base the doubling up on the Gaim arc, which is 2 episodes. And I might do that occasionally when I need more time, is just sort of buddy him up so I can talk about it all together. So, the Gaim arc. This was a cool one for me because Gaim's my favorite Rider series. I was excited to see it for many reasons. And I thought this was a very solid 2-parter. I definitely had some nitpicks with it, but I thought it was mostly enjoyable. It was really interesting on a couple levels. Like, basically one of the core elements of this plot was that there was 2 Zi-Os, because in an interesting twist, we start off with the final fight between another Gaim and Gaim Armor, and then after he destroys him, like, he goes into this weird broken apart world and gets talked to by, like, God Kota. And I'm still a bit confused about how that worked because I'm the dumbest boy in school. I'll address that at the end. But basically, like, just things weren't going right, and he kind of talked to him. It kind of reminded me, actually, just the way the scene looked with Sogo talking to him and, like, showing him all this stuff. Reminded me a lot of the scene in Decade's pilot when Wataru was explaining to Decade how the multiverse worked, and there was, like, all the Earths around and stuff like that. But so yeah, so something went wrong. He travels back to, like, basically 3 days ago to change the way things happened. Basically, from what it was, is that he was trying to motivate Gates. Like, because Gates got trapped in Helheim with Baron, and he basically constructed this so that he would allow Schwartz to throw the Gaim Ride Watch into Helheim so that Gates would be motivated to get out of there and get it back to him in an effort to sort of motivate Gates and to maybe bring Gates on his side. Like, it seemed weird because, maybe this is just me, because, I said because a bunch of times, sorry. It seemed like at the beginning of the episode that something was wrong when he destroyed the another rider, like it caused this fracture or something, or some sort of glitch, and he needed to fix something resolving that. But then it ended up being about Gates and the fact that he's kind of separated from the group right now and then wanting to bring him back into the fold. It just seemed kind of weird. And, like, it's weird because he's like, oh, I'm giving you this watch in Helheim so you can be motivated to bring it back to me so I won't become the Overlord. It's like, if he doesn't bring it back to him, wouldn't he not become the Overlord because he would never get Gaim's powers? Like, wouldn't he at least seriously derail Omagio's future by keeping the Gaim Ride Watch in Helheim forever? I don't know. Like, the way this show plays faster and looser with its rules than, like, anybody. So, I don't know. That kind of bothered me because I was a little bit confused about the execution. Maybe it's something really simple I'm not just understanding, but even if it is, I just feel the execution wasn't entirely there. But setting my confusion and kind of annoyance at how that was done, I really did like the 2 Sogos because it played for a lot of really funny comedy bits, I thought. Like, there was a scene when he was, in the most recent episode, when he was hiding behind himself from Waz and Xiaomi? Oh, it takes forever for the names. But I thought it was kind of funny. And there was, like, another scene where he's like, I knew I could count on me, and they're, like, hugging. And it was just, I don't know, it was, like, really funny, like, almost banter between the 2. But my favorite scene was when they're fighting another Gaim later, and it's present day Zi-O fighting him. And she goes to call future Zi-O on the phone, and, like, they both answer. She's like, Sogo, and you cut to him on the time machine, and he's like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, and he's over there, like, stopping the fight, answering it full ridered up. I don't know, I thought that was pretty funny. That amused me quite a bit. I think there was some good comedy played for that. There was also another scene where, like, the shop clock owner guy, they're trying to get him not to see both of them, and then he did, and she just covers his eyes briefly, and so there's just one. He's like, oh man, I must be really tired. And then I thought, like, one of them just ducked behind into the hallway or left. But, like, they were, like, standing perfectly behind each other. I don't know, there was a lot of stuff in that I found really amusing and entertaining. And I think it made for a little bit of a shake-up. Like, I mentioned in previous weeks how I like when they shook up tribute arcs by having other elements and other characters from different shows in it. And this one, we didn't have that. But we did have, like, the 2 Sogos, which I thought was really neat. I guess the other one just poofed when he destroyed both Gaims. Because basically what had happened was you know, we had present day Zi-O fighting another Gaim, and then future Zi-O fighting another Gaim in the past. And it was actually really cool. They did another one of those scenes where they mirrored the past and present fights. It was probably my second favorite next to like the Faiz Forze one, but this one was like the two Zi-Os fighting, and it was cool to see because it was different. But also, I like how they have the little touches of where they'll, you know, use the tint of whatever the Rider show looked like if it looked kind of different. Like Gaim had that very specific like dark bluish gray kind of tint to it, kind of like the older Rider series used to have, older Heisei ones. And they used that in 2013, so you could distinctly tell like this is 2013 battle, this is 2018 battle. I thought that was just a neat little touch that's like not even super necessary even. Like there's little like references like the little doll in the O's episode which are intricate to the plot, but this is literally like about the art direction of it, which I thought that was really cool. I appreciate stuff like that. It made for a really cool dual fight. Also, I really liked the little Suika arms. Like he's like, oh, you took my Gaim Lockseed, well, it makes sense I'm saying Lockseed in this episode, Ride Watch, but I have this robot and it's like Suika arms, and then it's like this tiny, and I thought that was like really adorable, and like just the way it was used. It's almost like more of a little Candroid helper bot, which I think is super cool. It was funny for that bit where you think it was going to be big, but it was just a helper, but then I think it could be a fun little, like amusing character that will appear throughout the series. Kind of like the Takaroid Watch thing. I think that was kind of cool. I enjoyed that a lot. The main guy that became another guy was basically a part of like Baron's dance troupe. And I like that they had a little bit better this week about having a character that might be motivated to actually become some sort of a king in a way. Well, not really. It was like different, but you know what I mean. Like it wasn't just some random guy like, oh man, you know, your daughter's sick. If you become another rider, then you'll become king and somehow it'll solve it. But like, because the Time Jacker's motivation, you know, is to find someone else to take the place of a ruler and somehow. So I like that they had, you know, like an overlord, not like a ruler like measuring. But you know, that they had somebody with some sort of a motivation that made more sense for that. There was a little bit of interesting stuff this week with like Woz wound up teaming up with the Time Jackers to help him get rid of the Gaim Ride Watch because he doesn't like all this stuff Sogo's doing with Gates because it's going against what his book says. And there was a really interesting scene at the end when Woz is going through the book and he sees Gates' name appear. Apparently, like, maybe history's changed and now he's a part of that. So that's kind of interesting. It kind of tells me, because I was curious if like the path Sogo was on, even if he thinks he's changing it, is always what happened. But it definitely seems like more and more these last few weeks it's been showing that what he's doing is changing things in some way. And we did get to see Kota a couple times. You know, we got to see him in the god form, both at the beginning of episode 11 and then like at the end of this week's, roughly near the end when they started solving everything. And then we got to see like regular Kota working like a fruit smoothie shop. I was almost excited. I was like, oh, we can actually get to see the set from like the Gaim hangout, but we didn't. But like we got to see him, and when he just dropped some oranges on him and then had the ride watches and then gave it to them. So I was definitely a little bit disappointed we didn't get to see more from him. We got a little bit from Baron. Like again, I wish there would have been a little bit more character-wise for him, just because coming off of Edgy's episode, where O's, I thought was so good at like representing who his character was and like what the themes of it were, and how they kind of had him imparting his wisdom onto Zi-O even when he wasn't like O's rider memory, O's. And I thought that there was some good opportunity for both Baron and Zi-O to do that. And then also given like Zi-O and Gates having similar goals but conflicting motivations and ideologies, I think given that Kota and Baron had a similar relationship, I think that there could have been something done with that. And you know, if Sogo wasn't such a weird character where he basically wants to be king, finds out he's going to be a dictator, but then he's like, okay, cool, I'll just become a not dictator and a cool king. If he was like a little bit more apprehensive and scared about that and played that up, I think that could have been cool for Kota's character, because one of my favorite things about his character was that like he overcame like very realistic fears, like once he realized this armor rider business was serious, but then like pulled through it. I think that could have been cool. It seemed like they tried to touch a little bit on the fact that Kota became obviously somewhat of a leader when he became god of a different planet. I feel like they touched on that a little bit. Like, I enjoyed seeing them again, and I felt it was like mostly enjoyable. Like, I liked seeing Helheim again and like some of the visual staples of Gaim, but I was definitely a little bit disappointed at them underutilizing the characters and some of the themes. At least I felt. And like I said, I was a little bit bothered by just kind of, I haven't seen the 12.5 yet, full disclosure, but I was a little bit confused by the way that, like, why like, did time really break, or was it, I guess it was maybe Kota that, like, stopped everything so that Zi-O could change it so he could reconcile with Gates. But then Gates shows up and he's like, okay, moving back in. But I think it's just a good idea to wait till you show signs of Zi-O and then take you out. It's like, I get it. There would be no show. It would be very untoku heroic for Gates to just kill Sogo. But logic-wise, this dude's always talking about how he comes from a ruined future because of Sogo. And you should just take him out while he's weak. When he's like, oh, good to see you back, Baron. Boom. Then you're doomed. You're Dune. You're Dune. See? You're Dune. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It's really weird for me. He's basically the worst Terminator of all time. I'm hoping that over time that dynamic smooths out. It's just, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. It doesn't make logical sense, I guess is why it bothers me. Is that he's sent back to take this guy out, but is essentially, like, I get it, he's kind of waiting to see if he'll change or not, but I feel like if it was that bad in the future, wouldn't he just want to end it now? I don't know. I'm not a fan of the way it's presented. I kind of get what they're going for, but I wish they went about it in a different way. But overall, I found these 2 episodes to be solid and enjoyable. I was just a little bit disappointed by, again, as always, some of the logic, and I was disappointed by a little bit underutilization of the Gaim cast, but I still mostly enjoyed them. I'd probably give both episodes a 7.5. Anyway, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get the notifications for all my videos. Until next time, Kamen Rider, signing out.